Winter testing is back for another week at Barcelona, and week 2 began almost immediately with a number of aerodynamic baseline tests in the first few minutes. But once teams had shed the aero rakes, they then bolted on their new bits of bodywork to test out how they'd go out on track. One of the most notable new parts was Williams' new front wing, and having started testing with a design similar to the one they ran last year, Williams came up with something a little bit different. By adding a couple of splits into the wingtips, Williams was able to control the vortex produced at those tips a little bit more closely. Those vortices are created by the wingtips as the airflow from the high pressure zone wants to try and get into the low pressure zone, but as the car accelerates, that creates a vortex which travels down the flanks of the car. By adding those tips, you're able to control the vortices a little bit more tightly. By sending them down the flanks, they're able to pen in the tyre wake and stop turbulence from entering the floor. Williams was able to create those splits via a clever circumvention of the regulations, which states that you're only allowed to have 5 enclosed sections from a cutaway of the wing. By shortening the wing elements further up, Williams is able to stay within the bounds of the regulations, but also has a little bit more control over the vortices it produces. That was a design pioneered by Red Bull last season, which introduced a split into its third wing element. And having been massively inspired by the Mercedes W10, Racing Point has also done the same for this season. It'll be interesting to see whether Williams persists with this wing or not, but it does seem like a step in the right direction for the team, which has struggled over the past couple of seasons. Another new addition to one of the midfield runners is the Alfa Romeo growing a pair of horns. In 2019, Alfa Romeo turned up at the second test with a set of 4 fins on top of the chassis bulkhead, which drives airflow outwards and controls the top part of the tyre wake being produced, also sending air down to the barge boards to be worked a little bit further down there. For the second week of 2020 testing, Alfa Romeo has largely done the same, but has created a slightly different formation for those fins. Rather than creating what looked like eyebrows on the last car, it has created 2 more conventional horn shapes, which again diverts the airflow outwards again, but also creates small tip vortices which is also sent down to the barge boards. Interesting to see if Alfa Romeo keeps it on the car after their baseline aero test, but all signs point towards them keeping it on the car, as they did last year as well. At the top of the field, Ferrari has made a change to its rear wing, among other things. Ferrari started last week with a conventional rear wing, but it's created a spoon section in the centre. This is something that they ran last season with circuits like Baku. The centre of the rear wing produces the most amount of downforce, and so by creating the spoon section in that rear wing, you're able to retain most of it. However, by turning the ends up, you're able to run with less angle of attack, and thus reducing drag. For circuits like Baku and Montreal, that's absolutely vital, where you require downforce but also quite a high top speed as well. For circuits like Monaco, this wing would not be used, but it seems that Ferrari is testing out aero parts for the rest of the season, just to try and see where it can make some gains. Throughout the second week of testing, it's expected that more teams will turn up with brand new aero parts, and it does remain to be seen what they'll turn up with. However, if last year is anything to go by, a number of teams should make quite big additions in their preparations for Melbourne.